Welcome to Connecting the Community podcast. I am your host, Marj Andre. I will be connecting you to people, organizations, and events that create community. I am creating this podcast in Richmond Hill, an eclectic and very culturally diverse community with lots of trees and streams and interesting people, just up the hill from Toronto. On this podcast, I will be talking with Tevi Mandel, the General Manager of the Richmond Hill location of TopSports. Welcome, Tevi.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you having me on.
I'm glad we found the time. I'm very much looking forward to our conversation. Got lots of questions for you. But let's start by you introducing yourself. What are you all about? What's your role at TopSports, and what sports do you play or have played?
Yeah, so thank you so much for having me on. I'm looking forward to it as well. So I've been coaching with Top for 2 years, starting off as an assistant coach in 2023-24 for the U13 hockey club, and then moving on to become a head coach this season for the U11 hockey club. And then I began my role as general manager of TopSports Richmond Hill in January of 2025. So just some overlap there. And now that the hockey season has ended, I'm able to dedicate full time to Richmond Hill. And then in terms of myself personally, growing up, I played hockey and soccer with a much closer focus on hockey. I didn't do anything crazy. I just played AA hockey growing up. And soccer, I played some rep. And later on transitioned to house league because I was focusing on hockey. So that's sort of a little bit of background on me.
Okay, very good. So can you now tell us about TopSports, like when, who, where? We'll get to the why next. So tell me about it.
Absolutely, yeah. So in terms of those elements, TopSports started in Toronto in 2017. It was founded by Kevin Shire, Ian McKenzie, and Luke Earle. And originally in their first season, they just had a few kids. I believe it was 5, and now the organization has grown to just under 1,000 players across all 3 of our sports in the 2024-25 season. The organization, as I mentioned, began in Toronto, and starting in September 2024, began the expansion to Richmond Hill and to Oakville. I will leave out the why until later, but yeah, the purpose is multi-sport in general. Yeah.
Okay, very good. So in reading over your website, and you've got a very good website, I've ascertained 2 issues of youth sports that I am thinking is the why for TopSports. So number 1 was focusing on the youth playing 3 sports, not just like, say, hockey, and also the parental involvement. So am I correct in concluding these are the why? And can you expand on these 2 features of TopSports?
Absolutely. So you are absolutely correct that those are 2 of the issues that we are looking to address. Though I would say that we love our parents, and there is a specific type of parent involvement that we are looking to address in TopSports. So I'll start with the multi-sport aspect. There are 2 aspects of the multi-sport to us. So number 1, the issue we were seeing in youth sports was a rise of early sports specialization, which then resulted in increased burnout, increased physical injuries, and then ultimately kids dropping out of the sport by somewhere in that range of 12 to 15 years old. And then paired with that is the issue that if you do in fact play multiple sports and you do try and take the multi-sport approach, you're going to have schedule conflicts, and you're going to have pressure from coaches from your different teams sort of competing over your presence at their activities, which is not good for a kid, and they sort of feel badly about not being at one. And our sort of thought process is that you should be able to play multiple sports without the pressure from coaches, so that you can love each sport, develop in each sport, and if you ultimately want to specialize in one later on, you're not burnt out and you're not sort of done with the sport by that point. In terms of the parent thing, positive parent involvement can be a very, very good thing. However, we found that it's difficult in youth sports for the vast majority of parents, if they are actually coaches on the bench, to be unbiased when coaching their own kid. And I don't blame them. It would be very difficult. So we just don't ask them to be in that position by guaranteeing that our coaches will be non-parent professionally paid coaches who are trained through our curriculum at the start of the season. And there's sort of a very clear process on that. I would certainly say you're correct in that multi-sport is one of the main reasons TOP was started, whereas parental involvement is probably more one of the possible factors contributing to a positive or negative experience. So I would say in terms of the overall why and sort of how we look to address those issues, there's early sports specialization, which we feel, results in burnout. There's conflicting schedules and schedules that are released 2 weeks at a time, which doesn't really give families a chance to plan ahead and sort of have their own lives. Negative coaching experience, which could be from a professional coach too, or it could be a parent coach that kids have had. And then burnout and dropping out, just, too much hyper focus on one sport, playing it 12 months a year. And so our 4 tenets that we look to address those things with are multi-sport development, seasonal set schedules, quality coaches who care and are trained through our curriculum, and then the last element is character building through sport. So that's sort of the general issues that we're looking to address, and then the why and sort of how we address those things.
Yeah. No, thank you for that explanation. That really makes things clear. So I must admit that I didn't expect to see lacrosse as one of the 3 sports. Like, why lacrosse? And did you ever play lacrosse as a youth?
Great question. So I'll start with the first question, which is the most straightforward answer as to why lacrosse is I totally understand it's generally not one of the first sports you think of. The skills between hockey and lacrosse are quite transferable. So that's something I actually could have touched upon in the multi-sport as well, which is that's another reason that it's a positive is, in the off season, without sort of having that burnout for one sport, you can still apply skills between different sports. And lacrosse is example A. So, for example, stick handling with your hands, using your wrists, that skill is transferable. And so, as a good example, actually, it's quite common in pro hockey for players to have played lacrosse growing up as well. And so, for example, the assistant captain of the Leafs, John Tavares, a lot of people would say he was a better lacrosse player growing up than a hockey player even. And so I guess, that's sort of the most straightforward answer as to why lacrosse, because I totally get that question.
Okay. So have you played lacrosse? Was that
I did not play lacrosse growing up, but I have really grown to love the game since working at Top. We have a technical director in charge of each sport. So our director of lacrosse is Bennett Drake, and he's actually a video coach for the Ottawa Black Bears in the Professional Lacrosse League. And so he designs all of our programs and trains all of our staff in the lacrosse curriculum. I did not personally play growing up, but I've learned a lot since joining Top, and specifically on how to teach lacrosse. And so that's been very exciting.
Okay. So you now have a lacrosse stick.
That's correct.
Okay. And do you play it outdoors or indoors or?
So our organization, we play field lacrosse, which is outdoors, but the general sport of lacrosse can be played indoors or outdoors. Indoors is a version of lacrosse called box lacrosse, and then outdoors is field lacrosse, which is just a little bit more open space for what we're looking for the kids. It just sort of fits our philosophy a little bit more.
Okay, no, thank you. So are there girls in your league?
Yes, great question. So for lacrosse and soccer, we have separate girls programming. In lacrosse, we have the Girls Sixes League. Sorry, I should be clear about this. In Toronto, we have girls programming. We're just starting out in Richmond Hill this year. So right now, all of our programming is co-ed as we start out, but the goal will be to expand to have girls programming as well. But in Toronto, we do have Girls Sixes League for lacrosse, and then we have girls programming as well in soccer. In hockey, we actually just had a meeting about a month and a half ago to discuss a path forward for girls hockey and top sports. We do not have girls teams yet in hockey, and the reason for that is the limitation of ice capacity, to be quite honest with you. It's very difficult to find space. We have to make sure that we have enough interested players in order to do that, but we are taking steps in order to do that in Toronto. And one thing I would say about our organization in the sense of making sure that girls are comfortable and have a place to develop their skills and play. We have a strong focus on making sure that we have a good percentage of female coaches, and specifically female head coaches as well. So club wide right now, 33% of our head coaches are female, and 36% of our coaches all across the program are females as well.
Okay, no, thank you for that. Good, and good luck with getting girls more involved in your sports leagues.
Thank you.
So how do you compete? Like, do you have teams that play against each other? Are there competitions?
That's a great question. So it depends on the sport, and we've actually sort of developed and made progress on this in each sport in the last number of years. So I can speak to hockey, first of all. This year was actually our first season with the GTHL in Toronto. The GTHL I would describe it, to be honest with you, as the biggest minor hockey league in the world, potentially. It's just so this year was our first year getting sanctioning, and the structure of our program is tournament style. So rather than entering into a league where the schedule is turned over every 2 weeks and essentially parents cannot really plan or go on vacation without risk missing a significant portion of the season, and then you get blowback from the coaching staff on that, which we want none of that. So our structure is that we give you 6 or 7 tournaments at the beginning of the season that we'll be participating in so that families can plan ahead and know what those weekends are. And then on weekends that we don't have tournaments, they can plan to do things as a family. We give March break off, Family Day weekend off, full Christmas and winter break off. The idea being, again, that we want to let families plan their year and sort of, just not take over and dominate their lives. To get back to more directly to your question about who we play against. So in these tournaments, we'd be competing against GTHL teams that are a part of their regular league. So each year in Toronto currently, we have one club per age group from U7 all the way up to U14. The level varies. So at our lower ages, they're select teams. As you get sort of the middle ages, they're single A teams. And then our oldest group was a double A team this year. So they would go and play in tournaments, 6 or 7 tournaments per year, competing against double A teams. That's as an example in hockey.
Okay.
As we start off in Richmond Hill, in our first season right now, we didn't have a team that was competing against other groups because we wanted to start at the grassroots learn to play level. But as we develop and as we get older, we're going to look to add teams. And actually, we have our first team that we're looking to add this year is a U8 team. So hopefully each year we'll be able to build under that and ultimately build all the way up to U18.
Okay, very good. That's a lot of logistics and planning, but good luck with all of that. I hadn't really thought of the complexity of trying to figure out who plays who. Okay, I must admit that I'm not a sports fan. I'm not an athlete and never been one. I did put my kids in sports. I felt like as a parent I had to. But can you articulate the value of sports and the value of team sports?
Absolutely. I would put it into 3 buckets or 3 categories. So number 1 is camaraderie and the value of team and the value of friendship. So, I'll sort of touch back on each bucket. The second one would be responsibility and discipline. And the third would be just athletic skills and being, physically active, being a healthy thing for a kid to do. So, number 1, camaraderie, team, friendship. To me, there is such a strong value in putting your kid in a position where they are comfortable. They are in a safe space in a dressing room where they can build relationships with teammates that they trust and love. Whether that's a kid that's social at school and that's just like another positive thing for them that they love to attend, that's a great thing too. But I find specifically for kids that might struggle socially at school or in other settings, at least in our organization, there's no allowance of treating your teammates badly. It's positivity and encouragement and uplifting your teammates. And anywhere that there's good coaching, those are the values that they're going to be being taught in the dressing room. And so, putting your kid in a safe space, I would say, is really valuable. And then developing friendships that they'll have for the rest of their lives. So, as an example, a lot of my best buddies are people that I played hockey with years ago growing up, and we still stay in touch, and those relationships mean the world to me. So, that would be number 1. And then also in turn with that, and sort of transitioning into that next category of responsibility and discipline, is you have a role on a team, and it's important to uphold your role on a team. And the coaching staff, in a positive and encouraging way, will hold you accountable to that role. And so I think that's, a valuable thing for a kid to learn, as long as it's not, in too strict of a way. Just the value of, okay, this is my responsibility. I have to do this responsibility. Otherwise, I'm going to let the people that I love and care about down. And so I think that's a valuable thing for a kid to learn. And then the most simple element is just, athletic skills and being active as something that's healthy for kids. I know there aren't a lot of times personally that I feel better than getting off the ice or right after an athletic activity. It's just a release of positive endorphins and you feel great. And so I think that's a really positive thing for a kid.
Okay. Now, Richmond Hill is one of the 3 locations for TopSports. why was this location chosen? Like you're in downtown Toronto and you're in Oakville. So why Richmond Hill?
Great question. Yeah. So, most simple answer is that Richmond Hill, first of all, in my experience, is a fantastic city. Like interacting with the people that work at the city, they're, really fantastic people. Everybody's super friendly. But more specifically, there's lots of green space. And there's a strong hockey background here. So it seemed like in doing some market research and some background research on the city, that there was a desire of the general community to be involved in sport. Again, compared to Toronto, the amount of green space that is available in Richmond Hill is incredible. And the general commitment and love of the game for hockey specifically, I've found, every kid walking into the rink just loves to be there. And there's just a strong base of hockey schools and people that love the game in Richmond Hill. So I would say green space plus love for the game of hockey would be two reasons that it made sense.
Okay.
And sorry, lastly, location.
Location.
We've gotten inquiries from people that are a little bit north of where we are in Toronto, and quite a few. So we thought, to give those people an option as well.
Okay. Now, Richmond Hill is really culturally diverse. Do the kids that are part of TopSports reflect that diversity?
I would say so, absolutely. Yeah, I would describe our current group of kids as quite culturally diverse. We have kids from all sorts of different backgrounds, and I see that as a really positive thing. To see two kids from, completely separate backgrounds interacting on the ice and just with a smile on their face, having fun and creating a friendship and potentially a, long-lasting bond is an incredible thing. And so, yeah, I would say if you show up to one of our Learn to Play sessions, it would very much reflect sort of, what you see in Richmond Hill in terms of cultural diversity, 100%.
And would there be an issue with some parents never having played hockey and not really understanding the sports? Do you coach them as well?
Yeah, it's a great question. So our parent group is quite diverse. I would say we have sort of both ends of the spectrum there. We have parents that have been involved in hockey that have been involved maybe in other organizations growing up and really know the ropes. There's certainly that, but there are also definitely people that are completely new to hockey that were their first hockey experience. And so yeah, we that's a really exciting thing for us to introduce somebody who's maybe their culture is not familiar with hockey and that's not what they grew up with, but they're interested in it and they want to be involved. We love that. And to be able to introduce this to new people is honestly fits directly within our philosophy as an organization of wanting to make the game more accessible for everybody and just, spread the positivity that we feel sports provides for kids. So yeah, to answer your question more directly, I've had to be in the dressing room, getting people ready and tying up skates and doing shin pads and stuff like that. But I'm happy to do it. And it's a positive thing overall for sure.
Okay. Thanks for that. Now, would you see success like for the kids involved, for TopSports, and for you?
Great question. Yeah. So success for the kids on a small scale, I would say, is that the kids that are in our program are able to develop their skills and develop their love for the sport in a positive environment where they will want to continue playing that sport for as long as they're physically able. And in addition to that they will learn important elements of strong character that help them in other aspects of life as well. So sort of what we talked about earlier about the elements of team and responsibility and all of those things, that those would then help them moving forward in life as well. And so for Top, to build a sport organization, multi-sport organization in Richmond Hill, where we're able to have learn to play, development, and teams for kids aged all the way from the ages of 4 through the ages of 18 for hockey, soccer, and lacrosse, and then to be able to run sport camps during the summer as well. So we don't run any of our academy programs during the summer. Part of the set schedule ideology and wanting to give back to parents and say, hey, you guys should enjoy your summer as a family without pressure from coach to come back to practice. But we do run camps just for fun. So yeah, I would say that would be success for Top and Richmond Hill is to have all of the tenets of our program operating from ages 4 to 18 and then running summer camps and beyond sort of the logistical numbers to make a positive impact in the community and to just, be seen as a positive place for your kid to develop their skills in sport.
Okay, good, good. And how about for you?
Yeah, for me, I would say what I consider successful for myself is pretty aligned with what's
Okay.
considered successful for Top. I really love this organization, and I believe in what we're doing, and so I want to make sure that we build that program successfully in Richmond Hill, and again, on a personal level, I love to see kids leave the rink with a smile. So success for me is creating a program where we can deliver that experience for as many kids as possible.
Okay, very good. Well, you've certainly explained things really well, so I really appreciate that. I do end all podcasts with the guest response to the same question. I'd like you to name one thing you really like about this community.
That's easy. I love the positivity of this community. Everybody I have met is extremely friendly and very into their sport, whichever sport they're showing up at the rink for. The kids come in with the biggest smiles on their faces, and the parents really do seem like they have the kids' best interest at heart. I say this coming from living in Toronto and the hustle and bustle of downtown, and a lot of mean mugging and just people are caught up in their daily lives. And what I notice in Richmond Hill is that people are very personable. They are positive. They want to make the most of their experience, and that's been very rewarding for us.
Okay, very well said. So thank you for saying good things about Richmond Hill. So
of course.
I will add to the podcast notes the website and also your email address if anyone would like to get in touch with you. So thank you, Tevi, for taking the time to do this podcast. Thank you for listening. I would very much appreciate you sharing this podcast. Consider emailing me at Marj, M-A-R-J, at marjandre.com. I welcome suggestions for podcast guests. Stay well, stay connected.